Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Wednesday, July 27th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, Brittney Griner speaking out today on drug charges, keeping her held in Russia, as she gives a judge details on documents that she had to sign that weren't even in English. Meanwhile, new updates are in following the deadly mass shooting that took place in Uvalde, Texas. Was the school's safety an issue far before the shooting took place? We have the story. Then Trump and Pence give rival speeches on the future of elections.
Plus, you're only one class away from becoming an Instagram baddie. A new course will teach you how to and what you need to know about that. And the MTV Video Music Awards nominees, they are in, but who got snubbed? We have all the details. We have that and so much more right here on Fox Soul Black Report. You ready to get to it? All right.
Brittney Griner testifying today in her own defense. Griner describing her arrest to the judge in the case. Griner says she was told to sign documents that she did not understand because they were in Russian. The WNBA star also says her rights were not read to her, which is required by Russian law.
We were able to spend time with Ms. Griner, talk to her, ask her about her welfare, and she confirms that she is doing okay and as well as can be expected under these circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Griner pled guilty earlier this month to drug charges after she was arrested at a Moscow airport in February. Her legal team says that was her Russian attorney's recommendation to plead guilty. Less than 1% of criminal defendants in Russia are found not guilty. Now, her attorneys say Griner was prescribed medical cannabis in the U.S. for a chronic injury and was not intentionally seeking to break the law. So it was really good to hear from her today in her own words. So she took the stand in her own defense today, and we kind of got more background as to what happened to her during that initial run-in with the Moscow police during her attempt to leave Moscow and come back to the U.S. So she says that day she was running late, she was rushing, she had to take a COVID test, and so she was throwing things together, and she did not mean to break the law. She said that she didn't know the cannabis oil was in her luggage. She said that it was a prescription for pain and for inflammation to her spine, to her knee, and to her ankle. It was prescribed by her doctor. She had a very, very small amount, but in Russia, just what she had was 0.702, and in Russia, that's less than a gram. And even in Russia, that is considered a significant amount. And so she pled her case. She said that she was sorry, she did not mean to break the law. And she also said that a lot during the detainment, she had a hard time understanding what she was saying when they first brought her over and said, hey, come talk to us for a little bit. She still thought she was going to be able to catch her flight. She had no idea at the time that they were detaining her. They took her passport. I think it was some time before she realized what was happening to her. So it was just good to just kind of hear her side of it, because before now we hadn't heard her version of events.
Mm-hmm. Definitely was really good to hear straight from the horse's mouth, as they say, and also good to know that she is doing okay, because I think when we see so many photos, she just does not look well to me. It always is very disturbing every time I see a photo, but of course she's in jail, so I don't know what I expected for her to look like. But so the United States, they did offer a deal to Russia. This was a deal that was proposed weeks ago, but they're now revisiting it. The Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, he actually put that statement out today, that they are trying to get a new deal in place to get her back home. And also, I was not shocked to hear that she had to sign a document that was in Russian, but also at the same time, it seems as if someone would make sure that she signed a document and she knew exactly what she was signing. But are we surprised here by that?
She's an American woman. She's black. She's a WNBA superstar. She's married to a woman that doesn't go over well in Russia. So we know all those things that Vladimir Putin can use against and kind of hold her on because of that, because I think he may be trying to set an example. It could be his way of getting back at America because of the whole support in Ukraine with the war. But it's politics, and it's unfortunate we have to play this game even with her life. But very rarely does someone get off on a case like this. So some are saying, like, she may still have to do 5 years, and we don't know if that's possible. But what would that do for her financially, for her career? better for her family. But then again, if they can't make some kind of trade to get her home, that may be the option.
Yeah, Romeo, and you said politics, and Brittney said during her testimony today that she was aware that there were some tensions, and she was aware that there was a warning not to fly to Russia, but she said that she didn't want to let her team members down.
Yeah.
And so she flew over there just thinking, this isn't going to apply to me. I'm always in Russia. I'm always here. My teammates know me. And so it's sad to see that, which honestly, too, this makes it more plausible that this was a stop and search on purpose.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Because like she said, she goes back and forth all the time. And so there was this warning out at the time where she was trying to travel back and forth.
Yeah. We'll definitely be providing more details as they come in on that.
Yeah.
The principal of the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, is being suspended, but with pay. Mandy Gutierrez's suspension comes 2 weeks after a damning report about the poor security that enabled a shooter to kill 19 students and 2 teachers at the school. There is no specific reason for the principal's suspension, but the report does say that Gutierrez, who is in her first year, knew about the security problems at the school. The report said that the school had a culture of poor safety practices. This honestly just seems as if this is picking somebody out at random, honestly. Not to say that there probably was something that she knew about there being a security issue at the school, but honestly, when you think about it, at the end of the day, nobody expects to go into their workplace and for a mass shooting like this to take place. However, what you do expect to happen is when something does happen like this, you expect for the government, you expect for the police departments, for the sheriffs who are trained for an event like that to happen. You expect for those people to take care of you. You expect for all those 400 or hundreds of police officers that were in the building, you expect for them to be able to handle this. So this firing or the suspending of the principal is just kind of like, we needed to blame somebody for it. And honestly, not to say that she didn't know something, but come on, like she didn't go into the school knowing that this was going to happen. The police officers, however, they are to blame.
Timmy, I couldn't have said it better, right? Because this sounds like a clear case of needing someone to blame. Yes. So they're picking the principal. I mean, they've had hearings after hearings after hearings, and they are shifting the blame. If we're going to discipline someone, we need to take a look at the nearly 400 police officers who were in the building, who were on the scene, and who did nothing. Not the principal, not the teacher who may have opened or closed or propped open a door. It just seems like there were so many different things or people that they're looking to blame instead of the people who did not do their job on that day.
Yeah, what we saw on that videotape, when we saw the footage, what was happening inside the school while the mass shooting was actually happening, that's the problem. So again, we got to have a fall guy or a fall girl in this particular case that happened. And it's so unfortunate because to me, if I'm a parent down there and I'm dealing with the loss already, like this does nothing for me. Does it bring me any peace of mind, any relief? Not at all. If I have kids who are going to go back to that school district, that doesn't work for me. Let's see what we're going to do with the police department, with the officers, with the FBI, all those officers that were there on the premises that day. Let's see how we're going to make that better and safer for my child, especially if I'm taking them back to that school
Absolutely.
district.
And as the principal of a school, there's paperwork, there's bureaucracy that you have to go through to sort of get some of these things that are fixed. So maybe she did know. Maybe there were certain security issues or things that a school needs. We all have been to a high school or an elementary school where, it needs some sprucing up. I don't think, like you said, Demi, no one knew that there was going to be a shooter that was going to come in and that they would be blamed for what happened to the school for it not being up to par. If that even is the case here. Just, again, seems like they're reaching.
Absolutely. Using her as a scapegoat. Unless this principal is being used as an accessory to the crime, unless she was in on the crime, this lady also is a victim in my eyes. She is also a victim of the trauma that took place at her workplace, at students that she probably considers to be her own children, students, parents that she talks to. This was her workplace. So to my eyes, unless she is being charged with being in on the crime, she is also a victim. And so it just really just blows my mind that we're not putting any harm, any wrongdoing on the police officers. We're just picking out a teacher, a principal. Yeah, and also too, just thinking about the after effects. putting a murder, a mass shooting like this on her is going to weigh so heavily on her for the rest of her life, making her, in charge of this. I hope that someone thinks about that when they're making her responsible for all of this. That's just a lot to bear for one person.
You're right, Jimmy. This is more of the same. They still haven't learned their lessons. This is more of them. This is along the lines of them arresting parents. So now we're blaming the teacher who had to be there that day and go through this with their students, right? This is along the same lines of blaming the parents, arresting the parents. Yeah. They still haven't learned.
No, and I'll say this in closing real quick. Her life could have been lost that day.
Absolutely.
So let's take that in consideration. And if we went across our country and looked at most of the schools, we may be surprised at what percentage probably needs to be upgraded to protect our students.
That's exactly right, Romeo. Good point, yeah.
All right, former President Trump and his Vice President Mike Pence were both in Washington, D.C. this week, but not at the same event. It's the first time Trump has been in Washington since he left the White House in a cloud of controversy. Trump went through a litany of exaggerations about the state of the country.
But now our country has been brought to its knees, literally brought to its knees, and who would have thought this could happen? Inflation is the highest in 49 years, 9.1%, and a lot of people think it's much higher than that. Gas prices have reached the highest in the history of our country. We have become a beggar nation, groveling to other countries for energy. Millions of illegal aliens are stampeding across our wide-open borders, pouring into our country. It's an invasion.
Meanwhile, Pence says the elections are about the future and not the past. Political analysts say Pence may throw his hat into the race for the Republican nomination for president. As for Trump, he's expected to make a really early announcement to run again in the coming weeks. When I just see him up there talking and the things he said, I've heard other things he said, like going after LeBron James, things of that nature, like even talking about how we need to protect our police officers. Were they being protected on January the 6th? When you were fighting that they're talking about that the election was being overthrown? Things like that. Let's talk about those things. Let's bring those matters to a hand. But when I look at Pence trying to run, I just don't know if he really would have a chance. I don't think the Republican base will embrace him like that. Will they even embrace him over Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida? I don't know.
The only way that the world is going to embrace Mike Pence is if he publicly goes against Donald Trump. He is not willing to do that as of now. What Pence has to realize, too, is that if he were to be in the line of fire, if this would have gotten closer to him, his life was in danger as well. A lot of people's lives were in danger on this day. And so Trump putting Pence's life in danger, everybody in his cabinet's life in danger, just because he wouldn't go along with his plot is crazy to me. And Pence standing up, not addressing they're calling it not addressing the elephant in the room is insane to me. Like, speak up, let everyone know, what you saw. That is the only way American people are going to have his side. Because if he goes against him, then people will be like, oh, okay, we're with him. He stood up for what he believes in. We're on his side.
I mean, listen, Donald Trump is gearing up to run again. We can see him. He's doing these America First rallies all across the U.S. again. So we see what's happening before our eyes. But we also, it's unfortunate what happened to Pence during the January 6th insurrection, where Trump was basically calling for his head. But Pence is still not the answer. Pence is very, very, very conservative. A lot of his viewpoints actually may have been a little worse than Trump. I would implore you, soulmates, to Google Pence, and he was the governor of Indiana, I believe, in the past. Just Google him and see. So he's not the answer to what we're looking for in 2024 either. So both of them could probably just go somewhere and retire.
Yeah, we would like that. And I would say this, Demi, just to piggyback on what you said. When that insurrection happened, they were within 40 feet of encountering Mike Pence.
Yeah.
His life could have changed on that day. That should make you want to stand up and say what really happened.
Exactly.
That's enough, right?
That enough. Seeing your life flash right before your eyes, Romeo, absolutely should be enough to be like, you know what, whoa, maybe I should. But I think also, too, there's a certain amount of fear. It's kind of like the street code. I'm sure there's like a presidential street code that's going on here that is probably like, I don't want to speak up because I could put my life in more danger. My family's life could be more in danger. So he's probably trying to toe the line enough, say a little bit here, but if I was Pence, I would be just giving it all.
You brought up a good point, but that's exactly what we're seeing with the Republicans. They're afraid to go against Donald Trump. We saw, I mean, didn't he call Marco Rubio's wife ugly?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden Marco Rubio is like, oh, I love Trump, you know, and then for Mitch McConnell came out and he spoke against the insurrection, and now he's mum while all this is going on. So there's a lot of fear, for whatever reason, to go against Trump. They think maybe they'll lose voters. I don't know what it is. So they're quiet and they're taking it for whatever reason. We don't know why. All right, while President Biden isolates himself after contracting COVID-19, Vice President Kamala Harris has been hitting the road to talk about abortion and the midterm elections. Harris, who received a 100% rating from abortion advocacy group NWord, spoke to Indiana lawmakers this week. They're fighting the state's GOP, which is meeting this week to consider more restrictions on abortion.
One does not have to abandon your faith or your beliefs to agree that the government should not be making this decision for her. An individual should be able to choose based on their personal beliefs and the dictates of their faith, but the government should not be telling an individual what to do, especially as it relates to one of the most intimate and personal decisions a woman could make.
The vice president has been crisscrossing the United States, talking to civil rights and other black organizations. She's been pushing them to make sure they encourage African Americans to get to the polls for the November election.
More than 50 groups are joining forces to get the black vote out for the fall midterm elections. Unity 22 will focus on building a broad coalition to maximize resources to get the vote out. The National Urban League, National Action Network, Black Voters Matter, and others are a part of the coalition. The Pew Research Center says that 122 million people voted in the 2018 midterms. Black turnout was only 51%.
They both used the N-word, but they were disciplined in different ways. That's what a black and white cop in Cincinnati claims. Dante Hill, who is black, and Dennis Barnett, who is white, sued the Cincinnati Police Department, accusing former Chief Elliot Isaac of racial discrimination. Now, both men were caught on video using a racial slur in separate incidents in 2018. Hill received a written reprimand, but when Barnett was caught using the N-word, the local media found out and it became a big issue. The chief suspended Barnett's police powers. Now, powers something he didn't do with Hill. Now, once he was told about it, the chief suspended both men and put them on 56 hours of unpaid suspension.
And Georgia Governor Brian Kemp testifying earlier this week against former President Donald Trump in front of a jury in Fulton County. The governor testified by video. The grand jury is trying to determine if any laws were broken during the efforts to overturn Georgia's election results. Kemp is the latest high-ranking official to go before the grand jury. Others are fighting their subpoenas, including South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham and Georgia Congressman Jody Hice. Now, Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, he tried to fight his, but last week a New York judge ordered Giuliani to appear on August 9th.
And new surveillance video is showing what happened when a woman opened fire inside Dallas Love Field Airport and was stopped by a police officer. The Dallas police chief says an Uber driver dropped off 37-year-old Portia Odufua at the airport. She then changed in a restroom and came out with a gun in her hand. She yelled about problems with her marriage and said she was going to blow the place up. Security footage, it shows her firing 3 rounds into the ceiling before being shot in the leg by police. A witness claims that Odufua said that she was married to R&B singer Chris Brown.
A group of Florida parents and advocacy groups are suing for the state's school districts, challenging the state's so-called Don't Say Gay law. The law restricts instruction of gender identity and sexual orientation in classrooms. The lawsuit was filed Monday in a federal court in Orlando. It's trying to block school boards in 4 Florida counties from enacting the law. The Don't Say Gay law passed after fierce debate in the state capitol last year. Lawyers for the family say the law violates the First Amendment as well as due process and equal protection rights.
A former New York editor at New York Magazine says she was fired because she continued to push for more diversity at the publication. Erin Overby, who is white, wrote a long Twitter thread that said her firing came after she repeatedly sent emails and tweets about the magazine's lack of gender and racial diversity. Overby says the New Yorker hasn't assigned a black editor to work on a feature story in nearly 15 years. Now, Condé Nast, the magazine's conglomerate, denies the accusations.
A federal investigation says the city of Chicago has a history of violating the civil rights of African Americans and Latinos when it decided to reallocate a scrap metal facility to the south side of Chicago. The Department of Housing and Urban Development says the city has a policy of shifting polluting activities from the white neighborhoods to black and Latino areas. HUD wants the city to voluntarily enter into an agreement and embrace a fair housing plan that includes plans to fix environmental problems. If Chicago does not agree to the plan, the city could lose hundreds of millions of federal housing dollars, and it could also face a lawsuit from the Department of Justice.
An off-duty New York City corrections officer has been charged with murder after shooting an 18-year-old in the Bronx who was holding a toy air rifle. NYPD investigators say Dion Middleton shot Raymond Chalusin in the face last Thursday, then went to work like nothing happened. Cops say Middleton never reported the shooting. Lawyers for Middleton say he was in fear for his life. Now, investigators say they are still trying to find a motive, but they say a so-called gel blaster was found at the scene. The blasters shoot water gel beads through a spring-loaded air pump. They are illegal in New York City. So you shoot someone in the face and you go to work like nothing's happening. It sounds like you're trying to get ahead of the problem and maybe try to de-escalate the situation, because after this happened, after the incident, is when they put on their website that it's illegal to have these guns. So that was posted after the fact. And you have to understand, if you are any type of officer, you know the procedure, what needs to be taken. You shot someone in the face and you just walk away from that and leave. It makes no sense at all, and he definitely should be charged.
Absolutely. You know, Romeo, you hit the nail on the head, but when you see things like this, not similar, but like with hit and run situations, always blow my mind that a person can literally do something so heinous, so awful, and literally leave a person just even for dead. And even this situation too, like you said, shooting someone and then going to work as if nothing happened. I mean, you think about if you were to do a crime, what would you do? Put yourself in that position. And honestly, I feel like majority of people would go on about their lives and then just be like, hey, you know what, if you catch me if you can, type of thing. You know, that's what I feel like majority of Americans would do.
Yeah, but he's claiming he's defending himself. That's what he's trying to say, that someone pointed gun at him and that was his reaction. So if you have that to go on, then why would you not put that on record right away?
Yeah.
Why would you go to work and pretend nothing happened, especially after you shoot someone? That's not just something that happens. You know, there's protocols and things that you have to follow after you shoot your weapon. And so that's very suspect. You know, when I hear stories like this about water guns, Nerf guns, things like that, it always brings me back to my son and him playing with those things, because I am deathly afraid of how real they are becoming or how real they may look, and how someone may mistake his toy as the real thing. I mean, we saw what happened with Tamir Rice. And so, you know, I only let him play with things like that in the backyard, just because you just never know how someone's going to take that, how someone's going to look at that nowadays. It's just, especially being a black boy, you just never know. And so it's really unfortunate, but that he is in jail right now and being held on $1 million bail. So we'll see.
It just also goes to show that people in that position, like jail officers, they feel like they're above the law too. I feel like a part of him, even though he was off duty, made him feel like, well, you know, like I said, catch me if you can, if you figure it out, if you find out, if so, if not, I'll be clocking in and getting my last little coin.
So sad.